Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in NewsHour. Shubhanshu Shukla's return from ISS, post-axiom mission success to boost India's future space plans. PM Modi lauds Shukla for inspiring a billion dreams. SCO Foreign Ministers meet in Tianjin, paving the way for the upcoming summit. India and China explore diplomatic reboot through Jaishankar's high-level meetings. Lavrov questions Trump's 50-day Ukraine peace deadline, says Trump is under pressure from EU and NATO. India hits 50% non-fossil fuel energy milestone 5 years ahead of the 2030 target. India's space ambitions received a shot in the arm after Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla returned to Earth. He and 3 other astronauts completed the Axiom 4 mission, an achievement that's making the whole country proud. He spent 20 days in space, including 18 aboard the International Space Station, before safely splashing down in the Pacific with his crew. With celebrations pouring in, everyone's now looking ahead to ISRO's next big project, Gaganyaan, India's bold leap into human spaceflight. The countdown to the next chapter has already begun.
Lifting India's aspirations to new heights, the Axiom 4 mission carrying Group Captains Shubhanshu Shukla along with 3 astronauts from the United States, Poland and Hungary splashed down in Pacific Ocean off the coast of California at around 3:01 PM IST on Tuesday. After spending 20 days in space, including 18 days on board the International Space Station, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla and the Axiom 4 crew were assisted out of the Dragon spacecraft and onto the recovery vessel following their return to Earth. The Axiom craft was launched on June 25, 2025 from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, following which the 4-member crew docked with the ISS on June 26. During their 14-day stay on the Space Orbital Lab, the astronauts conducted several experiments including microgravity research, technology demonstrations, and outreach activities. Shukla conducted 7 India-specific microgravity experiments, which will be instrumental in strengthening India's capabilities in space science and technology. These experiments were also designed to generate critical data for future planetary missions and long-duration space habitation. India's Science and Technology Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh expressed happiness over the safe return of the Axiom 4 crew, calling it a moment of glory for India.
It's a moment of pride for the whole world, and a moment of glory for India as one of her illustrious sons returns back after accomplishing a successful voyage and after having conducted some of the very vital life-bearing experiments never done before. And therefore, as I said, today indeed Bharat has found an enduring space in the world of space.
A distinguished pilot in the Indian Air Force, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla has also been selected as one of the astronauts for the Indian Space Research Organization's historic Gaganyaan mission, India's first human space flight program.
इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन पे कई एक्सपेरिमेंट भी किए। पहले तो उसका एक एक्सपीरियंस लिया स्पेस का और माइक्रोग्रेविटी का, और वो लेने के बाद कई एक्सपेरिमेंट भी वहाँ किए 15 दिनों तक स्पेस में रहने के समय पर, और ये अनुभव लेते हुए वो वापस पृथ्वी पे आ रहे। तो ये अनुभव का फायदा हमारे जो भारत का और इसरो का गगनयान मिशन है उसमें उनके अनुभव का अवश्य हमको फायदा मिलेगा।
As India celebrates this historic moment with the Gaganyaan mission on the horizon, the nation stands poised to take its place among the leading spacefaring nations of the world. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, India's President Draupadi Murmu has congratulated the astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla on his incredible achievement. In a social media post on X, the President said, and I quote, "A hearty welcome to Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla as he comes back to Earth after his space journey." His role in piloting the Axiom 4 mission to the International Space Station has created a new milestone for India's space exploration as well as for international collaboration in science and technology. My congratulations to everyone involved in this mission. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla on his return to Earth from this landmark mission aboard the ISS. And in a post on X, the Prime Minister wrote, and I quote, "I join the nation in welcoming Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla as he returns to Earth from his historic mission to space. As India's first astronaut to have visited the International Space Station, he has inspired a billion dreams through his dedication, courage and pioneering spirit. It marks another milestone towards our own human spaceflight mission, Gaganyaan." Moving on, India has achieved a landmark in its energy transition journey by reaching 50% of its installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel sources, 5 years ahead of the target set under its nationally determined contributions, NDCs. This is to the Paris Agreement. Now, the next report dives deep, I beg your pardon. It deep dives into this landmark achievement towards climate action.
India has once again risen to its commitment to non-fossil sources. Well, the good news is that renewable sources of energy feed half of India's power grid needs. India has achieved a new landmark in its energy transition journey, reaching 50% of its installed electricity capacity from non-fossil fuel sources. Notably, this achievement comes 5 years ahead of the 2030 target set under the Paris Agreement. On the global stage, India continues to lead in climate action, promoting equity and sustainable lifestyles. This breakthrough, driven by initiatives like PM Kusum and rooftop solar, highlights India's commitment to climate leadership and inclusive energy growth. India's Minister of New and Renewable Energy, Prahlad Joshi, has reaffirmed that India's clean energy transition is not just an environmental objective, it is a national mission. Speaking at the IBCA Renewable Energy Summit 2025 at IIT Bombay, he highlighted that private investment is vital to achieving India's ambitious target of 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030.
India's energy need is going to be doubled by 2035. तो बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में हमारा जो 2030 तक आज जैसे मैंने पहले बताया हमारा इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी बोथ टू पुट टुगेदर इट इज अबाउट 483-84 गीगावाट. So but requirement will be, you can't imagine, by 2030 the requirement will be almost 817 gigawatt. This is what is the expectation. When we want to generate 817 gigawatt of energy, out of that, even if you consider as a 50% from the renewable energy, so you see the requirement of fund for that.
From renewable energy generation and battery storage to green manufacturing, India is witnessing record capital inflows and strong policy support. This positions India among the top 3 nations globally in renewable energy capacity addition. This achievement reflects the success of visionary policy design, bold implementation, and the country's deep commitment to equity and climate responsibility. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Mr. Abbe Bhakra, who's the Mission Director of the National Green Hydrogen Mission under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, is with us in the studio. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. Now, how has India, managed to achieve this 50% non-fossil fuel capacity 5 years ahead of schedule? In what way has the policy initiatives helped, and also how has market dynamics helped?
Yeah, so actually the policies have come first, and seeing the policy, the confidence in the government actions, the visibility the kind of demand and the growth which is perceived by the investor, by the project developers, the capacity has come much faster, much quicker than as promised. And as we see, most of the developed nations struggle to even achieve their original NDCs, and they take much more time. They take longer time to set up solar parks, solar projects, wind projects. In Indian scenario, the policy push and the attraction by the investors and the development, coupled with the demand creation, has actually scaled up the capacity much faster, and that is why we have achieved this 50% almost 5 years, in fact more than 5 years before the target of December 2030.
So when we look at green hydrogen, we have a target also for 2030 of about 5 million metric tons. How much on track are we with that, as well as what role will green hydrogen play in this energy transition?
So because we have a sustained growth of around 7% in the economy, that means most of the sectors which need huge amount of energy are also growing at a same growth rate or even more than that. So that means there is a incremental demand every year increasing, and that's why the use of green energy, whether it's electrons, that's renewable power through solar and wind, and also the renewable energy in the form of where oil and gas is used, can be easily replaced by green hydrogen. And because India has a very strong grid available, we can transport renewable energy from one part of the country to another part of the country, which is not available in most of the other countries. Here we have the advantage that we can produce hydrogen, which is from renewable sources, that's the green hydrogen, and we can use the economic sectors by energy transition in the form of green energy, and that's why it is supporting our green energy transition. Not only solar, wind, but also the green hydrogen will be the future fuel for all our economy.
So has India, in the renewable energy sector, has it been able to balance, the needs of development with the environmental concerns so far? And we're looking at sectors like manufacturing in particular and transportation.
So these are the sectors, the manufacturing, where the electrification is the first lever, where you can actually slowly discard the coal or oil and gas, and we can shift to electrified processes. At the same time, transport sector, which predominantly uses the oil and gas, which is the fossil fuel, can be slowly replaced by EVs, the electric vehicles. Again, the electricity can come from renewable sources, or upcoming the green hydrogen vehicles. We have seen the trucks, buses being rolled out on a pilot basis. We would see hydrogen cars in coming years. So all these transition will actually replace the fossil fuels by green energy, and that's why it will support the further green energy transition and decarbonize our economy.
So you talked about the grid earlier. So have we achieved sort of grid parity, with our energy mix, solar, wind, hydro, nuclear? Is it on par with, the old conventional energy means in terms of the costs? And what challenges in terms of grid stability do you see in the future, as well as you're talking about EVs and about storage, integration?
Yes. So renewable comes with essential hindrance about the intermittency. That's why we call it. From 2016 onwards, the tariff or the cost of electricity from renewable has almost come at par with the conventional electric sources. From 2016 onwards, we have seen further decline in that. But yes, there is a challenge of round-the-clock renewable energy. Currently, the base load or the non-peak load or the non-solar load is provided by conventional or the thermal energy. But as we move ahead, we will add more and more storage, where we can use the excess renewable energy from solar and wind in the form of a battery or a pumped storage, and use this storage in the night time or other peak time, so that we can increase the share of renewable energy consistently over the years, and slowly change the use of thermal energy during the night time also. That will help most of the other industries who are otherwise using the fossil fuel to gradually shift to the green energy.
Mr. Bhakra, what role has international cooperation played? India, of course, has been a founder member of the International Solar Alliance. There are a lot of these kind of initiatives, biofuels and things like that. To what extent, has this helped, as well as financing, technology transfer through this international cooperation, helped India in this clean energy transition?
So because the kind of progress, the kind of scale-up we are witnessing in country, there are many countries who are unable to achieve these kinds of. So when the International Solar Alliance was announced in the Paris in 2015, and after that we have seen a major scale-up in the solar sector within India. Also, it has been supported in those countries who were in fact not at all familiar with the solar power or the solar energy. They were predominantly using oil or coal. They have got the familiarity, and they have started making installations, whether it's decentralized the way we are doing it, solar rooftop through PM Surya, or we are using for the agriculture sector PM Kusum. So these kind of decentralized RE is also encouraged in these countries, small countries who are now ISA members, more than 100 of them. And that way the international standing of India as a climate champion, and also as policies which are scaling up renewable at a much faster rate, has kept India as a front runner, as a leader in this energy transition.
A final question, do you see a greater rural electrification taking place through green energy, as well as lots more green jobs for our youth?
Yes. So not only the solar, wind, or even green hydrogen, all these projects, either they are coming at a large scale in those parts of the country where the solar or wind is good, in those states, etc. So a lot of green jobs are created. When these projects are situated at the agriculture sector like PM Kusum, those green jobs are created. If it is a solar rooftop, the rooftop technicians, the installer and the maintainer, they are all, these are the new areas coming up. EVs, hydrogen vehicles, these will be new sectors where the green jobs will be created. And in future, the production of green hydrogen, green ammonia, green methanol, these will be new kinds of green fuels which will be produced within India through renewable sources, and all these sectors will actually create green jobs in the green energy sector, much more than what we have witnessed in the past.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Abbe Bhakra, Mission Director, National Green Hydrogen Mission under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Now, still to come here on DD India NewsHour, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Italian counterpart Tajani meet at the State Department amid uncertainty of tariff deal. The UK winds up an amnesty scheme that had protected Afghans who had assisted them before the Taliban takeover.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. In a significant diplomatic outreach, foreign ministers from across the region gathered in Tianjin for the SCO Council of Foreign Ministers meeting. The high-level meetings, the talks, they focused on regional security, cooperation and strengthening ties among member states. Here's more on the key highlights from that meeting.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, along with foreign ministers from Shanghai Cooperation Organization member countries, attended the SCO Council of Foreign Ministers meeting in Tianjin. Addressing the gathering, Dr. Jaishankar stressed that the three evils, terrorism, separatism, and extremism, must be tackled with an uncompromising stance. Earlier, Dr. Jaishankar called on Chinese President Xi Jinping. He conveyed greetings from President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and apprised President Xi of recent developments in India-China relations, emphasizing the importance of leadership guidance on both sides. On the sidelines of the meeting, Dr. Jaishankar also held bilateral talks with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, and Iranian Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping, while meeting with the foreign ministers of member states, said the CEO is expected to play an active role in promoting global peace and development.
This year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War, as well as the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. The holding of the Tianjin summit of the SCO on this important historical occasion has drawn high attention from the international community. It is widely expected that the SCO will play an active role in promoting world peace and development.
In a separate meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, Xi pledged greater support for Russia, calling for strengthened mutual backing and urging joint efforts to unite countries of the global south and promote a more just and equitable international order. As the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is set to take place in Tianjin from August 31st to September 1st, in which heads of states are expected to participate, the world attention is now on the Asian region amidst the rising political and economic instabilities in several global pockets. Bureau Report, DD India.
And in Washington, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani. This happened on Tuesday amid transatlantic tensions over possible new U.S. tariffs on European imports. Their meeting followed Tajani's pointed remarks in an Italian newspaper where he revealed that the EU has already lined up a €21 billion package of retaliatory tariffs on American goods should trade talks falter. Now, still, striking a more optimistic note, he said that he was confident that negotiations could bridge the divide, averting a costly tariff war between the two economic giants. Britain's Defence Minister John Healey has revealed fresh details about a serious 2022 data breach that exposed the identities of thousands of Afghans who aided UK forces and troops, putting them at grave risk of the Taliban reprisals. Now, speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, Healey said that the breach forced the government to set up a secret relocation scheme, which is now being wound up. Already, around 4,500 affected Afghans are in the UK or en route at a cost of nearly £400 million. Meanwhile, the government faces mounting lawsuits from those impacted, adding to the fallout from this security lapse tied to Britain's chaotic 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan.
This serious data incident should never have happened. It may have occurred 3 years ago under the previous government, but to all those whose information was compromised, I offer a sincere apology today on behalf of the British government. It follows a lengthy...
In a move that underscores the deepening shadow war, in fact, playing out across Eastern Europe, the US citizen Daniel Martindale was granted Russian citizenship by a decree from President Putin. Martindale had helped Russian forces target Ukrainian troops and was later evacuated by Russian special forces. Denis Pushilin, the Moscow-backed leader of the occupied Donetsk, thanked him, saying that his intelligence aided Russia's push to capture Kharkov near the Ukraine key hub of Pokrovsk. Images of water gushing into a subway train platform in New York tell us of the intensity of the rainfall experienced there. Authorities issued several flash flood warnings across the New York City metropolitan area. An eyewitness video, it showed floodwater surging onto the platform of the 28th Street station as passengers watched from inside a train car. In another footage, passengers knelt on their seats or lifted their legs to avoid the flood water inside the train. New York City subway service has been experiencing severe delays due to stations flooding, according to the Metropolitan Transport Authority. Leaders of the Moroccan community in Spain's Torre Pacheco, they've urged people to stay calm following 4 nights of violent clashes between North African migrants and the far-right groups. Police have detained at least 14 people so far over the clashes that flared up on Friday after an attack on a local man in his 60s. According to government spokesperson, far-right groups have called for anti-migrant protests on Tuesday, and over 120 civil guard officers have been deployed to maintain security in the town. A prosecutor on Tuesday urged Brazil's Supreme Court to find ex-president Jair Bolsonaro guilty of plotting a coup. The appeal came during the closing arguments of a trial in which the U.S. President Donald Trump attempted to intervene in support of his right-wing ally. The prosecution told the court that the former army officer Bolsonaro and 7 others were guilty of participating in armed criminal association and had sought to violently overthrow the democratic order. Bolsonaro faces accusations of attempting to overthrow and overturn, in fact, the results of the 2022 presidential election, which was won by his left-wing opponent and the current president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Lebanon is grappling with an unprecedented water crisis as levels at its largest reservoir on the Litani River, they have plunged to historic lows. Experts warn its country's worst drought on record endangers agriculture, electricity generation and drinking water supplies. According to the Litani River National Authority, inflows into Lake Karaun, which is the reservoir, during this year's wet season barely reached 45 million cubic meters, a stark drop from the typical 350 million. Now, even last year's intake was higher at 230 million. Let's take a look now at other stories making news from around the world. The centuries-old tradition of swan upping, the census of the royal swan population on stretches of the River Thames, got underway. The 800-year-old tradition lasts 5 days, covering the stretch of the Thames between Sunbury, near London, out to Abingdon, which is near Oxford, travelling a total of 79 miles. Around 350 loggerhead turtle hatchlings have made their way to the sea of Isuzu Beach. This is in Mugla's Ortaka district. This marks a significant event in the conservation of these marine animals, as the beach is a crucial nesting site for loggerhead turtles. The 3,800-year-old citadel of Penico, Peru, has been opened to the public after 8 years of research and restoration. According to researchers, the archaeological site was a meeting point for trade between the first human communities on the Pacific coast and those from the Andes and Amazon regions. So still to come here on DD India NewsHour, we'll get you an expert's take on the US's role in the Russia-Ukraine war. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Things are heating up on the global stage with fresh attacks in Ukraine. The US is turning up the pressure on Russia. And President Donald Trump's latest statements have set off a storm of reactions across the world, from Europe to Asia. In diplomatic circles, there's a clear buzz as countries weigh in, both with support and concern. Now, it's the kind of moment where global alliances are tested, and India will be watching closely as things unfold. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay reports.
Just a day after Trump's renewed commitment to Ukraine's security through the supply of Patriot missiles, Ukraine launched a drone attack on the Russian city of Voronezh, injuring 16 people, including a teenager. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General praised the newest tariffs threat against Russia announced by Trump.
This is really significant. So last Thursday, I got a call from President Trump. He said, hey, Mark, we really want to ramp up the support for Ukraine when it comes to weapons.
NATO Secretary General's remarks come after Donald Trump threatened sanctions on buyers of Russian exports unless Russia agrees a peace deal within 50 days. This marks a major policy shift brought on by frustration with Moscow's ongoing attacks on its western neighbor. Russia's ally China has come forward in its support to the country by outrightly rejecting the American pressure tactics.
I would like to reiterate that China has always believed that dialogue and negotiations are the only viable way to resolve the Ukrainian crisis. There are no winners in trade wars, and coercion and pressure will not solve the problem either. We hope all parties will work to foster an environment and build the conditions necessary for a political settlement of the Ukraine crisis and do more to encourage peace and promote talks.
While Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia wants to understand what motivated US President Donald Trump's recent statement about a 50-day deadline for Russia to agree to a peace deal in Ukraine.
Of course, as Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said, we want to understand what is behind the statement on 50 days. It used to be 24 hours, and it was 100 days. We've all been through this, and we really want to know what motivates the President of the United States. It is clear that he's under enormous, I would say indecent pressure from the European Union and the current leadership of NATO, who impudently support Zelensky's demands to continue pumping him with modern weaponry, including offensive weapons, at the expense of more and more damage to taxpayers in Western countries.
But America is not the only one mounting pressure on Russia. US regional partner, the EU, also sent their foreign ministers to meet in Brussels on Tuesday. They discussed Russia-Ukraine conflict at length. The meet stands crucial as EU countries are close to reaching an agreement on a new package of sanctions against Russia.
Really welcome the news that comes from the United States that they will provide weapons to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. Of course, we hope to reach also political agreement on the 18th sanctions package. We are very, very close. I hope it comes today.
But Trump insisted he was not done yet with Russian President Putin in an interview hours after he said he was disappointed in Putin and threatened Moscow with sanctions.
But I'm not done with him, but I'm disappointed in him. We had a deal done 4 times, and then you go home and you see he just attacked a nursing home or something in Kiev. I said, what the hell was that all about? I trust almost nobody.
With the US envoy's visit and fresh air defense commitments, Kiev sees renewed momentum in Western support. The coming weeks may reveal just how far this support will go. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Well, Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs and well-known analyst now on international affairs, joins us. Ambassador Bhattacharya, do you see Trump being put under pressure from Europe and NATO as Russia suggests?
Well, Trump's position has certainly evolved over the months. You would recall that he had said that he would bring peace within a few hours, within a few days of assumption of office. And to be fair, he did put in a very significant effort. But it appears that the kind of package that both Russia and Ukraine want maybe somewhat different from what the Europeans want. And it does appear that Trump, who was not in favor of providing heavy weaponry, modern weaponry to Ukraine, is now beginning to think otherwise. So today's statement comes in the wake of the NATO discussions that had taken place some time back. And as we know, the European Union is having its council meeting right now on the 18 sanctions package, and Kaja Kallas is actually shepherding a new measure for action against Russia. Meanwhile, the drone attacks from both sides have mounted up. I do notice a sense of frustration, and Mr. Trump did mention it as well, that he was frustrated with the kind of reaction he was getting from the Russian side. But putting an ultimatum and tariffs and secondary tariffs even possibly is fairly significant measure.
Indeed. Let's talk about that a little bit, about the secondary tariffs. How far can trade be used as a weapon against Russia? Now, the Senate is suggesting secondary tariffs of 500% on countries doing business with Russia.
Well, to be frank, I think the countries that are doing business with Russia include many in the European Union as well. Because as you're aware, the European Union has not really totally removed its purchase or imports of energy from the Russians. And so there's still natural gas as well as some fuel oil, which is coming into to European Union. US also buys some of it. As you know, the first round was one in which they had wanted to put a cap on the price, apart from, of course, freezing all Russian assets in those countries, in the OECD countries. So I think there is some that is going to the Europeans as well. But of course, as we know, the bulk of it goes to China, which consumes perhaps about half of the fuel oil. India is a significant importer still. Brazil, Egypt are amongst the principal purchasers. But I also think there is another aspect of Western imports from Russia, which is of fissile material for the nuclear power plants. And Russia is a key supporter of enriched uranium for Western nuclear power plants, which is also of considerable value. So I don't know who all this is meant to target, because if it also targets the European countries, that would be something that is on an equal level playing field. But it is not very clear at this moment, because I think the Americans are still discussing this internally. I personally do not support this idea of either primary sanctions or secondary sanctions. And we can talk more about the secondary sanctions in a moment. But I don't support this because I do believe that we should not move towards such ultimatum. And I'm not saying that because Dmitry Medvedev has said so and Lavrov has said so as well in today. But this is not the way to go ahead. I think we need negotiated settlements. We need to have a rule of law that applies, because the entire global trading system is being turned upside down.
Indeed. Ambassador Bhattacharya, but perhaps, it's forcing countries to work out deals with the United States much faster. And how effective can these trade deals be with the US? Is there going to be compliance in that sense, or is there going to be realignment? People are just going to say, forget about it.
So I think we'll see both of these. In this one as well, there are two developments, because on the one hand, the United States is autonomously negotiating with a range of countries on trade deals, which is in response to the retaliatory tariffs, that they have marked against a range of countries across the world. But in this specific instance, there is this mention of secondary tariffs. And as you mentioned, an astronomical figure, which really makes no sense. If one were to start counting numbers, one can go up to very high numbers. But these don't make sense in the real world. So I think on the one hand, the one that is happening about the bilateral negotiations, apart from this Russian issue that has come up today, the one that is happening on bilateral things is something that is going to lead to trade deals. And I think they should endure. And I think in some ways they will lead to a revaluation of the trade baskets that both countries would have bilateral. And it would also mean that there would be a certain early harvest. So in some ways, just as India is trying to negotiate with the United States a deal in which there's an expansion of trade, in which both sides can benefit. And at the same time, if there has to be a tariff, we can negotiate. And there's, of course, the option of 0 for 0. So I think the bilateral is one part. But to link it up with the secondary tariff is a very strange.
Right, we'd have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs of India. Thank you for being with us. Now, moving on to our next story, China's economy, it showed less than expected growth in the second quarter. It also showed resilience against U.S. tariffs. But, you know, analysts warn that weak demand at home and rising global trade risks, this is going to ramp up pressure on Beijing to roll out new stimuluses. And the investors are also bracing for a weaker second half as exports lose momentum. Prices continue to fall, in fact, and consumer confidence remains low. But data on Tuesday showed that China's GDP stood at 5.2% in the April-June quarter, from a year earlier, which showed 5.4% in the first quarter, a slight reduction. Let's take a look at other stories making news. President Draupadi Murmu will be conferring the prestigious Swachh Sarvekshan 2024-25 awards at New Delhi's Vigyan Bhavan. This is going to happen on July 17, marking the 9th edition of the annual Urban Cleanliness Survey. A total of 78 awards will be given this year across 4 categories. The Unique Identification Authority of India, the UIDAI, has urged parents and guardians to complete mandatory biometric update for children aged 7 and above. In a statement, UIDAI has emphasized the importance of completing the mandatory biometric update for children who have reached the age of 7 but have not yet updated their biometrics in Aadhaar. As Uttarakhand gears up to celebrate the traditional folk Harela festival, the Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, he has on Tuesday said that the occasion would be marked by the plantation of over 5 lakh saplings across the state. Through a social media post on X, he said, and I quote, "On this occasion, a resolution has been made to plant over 5 lakh saplings, marking a new milestone in the connection between this folk tradition of Uttarakhand and a new initiative," unquote. Well, still to come here on DD India NewsHour. Tesla is finally in India with the launch of its first showroom in Mumbai. And King Charles meets the members of the Indian men's and women's cricket teams. Olympics announces the schedule for cricket tournament for 2028 Los Angeles Summer Games. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's now look at the sports news. In fact, this is not quite the sports news, but let's give you this news first. Tesla officially entered the Indian market on Tuesday with the launch of its first showroom at the Maker Maxcity Mall in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex. The EV pioneer teased its arrival last Friday in its India-focused X account. Tesla will sell imported vehicles, including the Model Y, which is priced at approximately $69,770. That excludes local manufacturing for now. Encouraged by India's new EV policy offering reduced import duties and incentives, Tesla aims to test the waters in the world's third largest car market. The Union Minister, H.D. Kumaraswamy, confirmed Tesla's current focus is on retail only. With minimal EV penetration and charging concerns still prevalent, Tesla is set to challenge the German luxury brands like BMW and Mercedes-Benz in the premium electric segment. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for the sports news. And King Charles met members of the Indian men's and women's cricket team. This happened at Clarence House in London on Tuesday. King Charles interacted with the Indian captain Shubman Gill, the vice-captain Rishabh Pant, Jasprit Bumrah and the head coach Gautam Gambhir. The King discussed England's thrilling victory over India in the third test at the home of cricket, Lord's. And England have taken a 2-1 lead now in this 5-match series. The fourth test is set to be played at Old Trafford on July 23. Hopefully India can come back in that one. Olympics have announced the schedule for the cricket tournament, which is to take place during the 2028 Los Angeles Summer Games. The cricket event will kick-start from July 12, with the medal matches scheduled for July 20 and July 29. 6 teams in both men's and women's cricket and a total of 180 players will be participating in the tournament. Each team can name a squad of 15 members for the 20-over tournament. Cricket will be part of the Olympics for the first time since 1900. Most matches will take place as double headers, with no matches scheduled for July 14 and 21. We're talking about 2028 here. Now, the Indian opener Shafali Varma has moved back into the top 10 of the ICC Women's T20 International Player Rankings for batters. Wrapping up the 5-match T20 International Series with 176 runs at a strike rate of 158.56, Shafali was the second highest run getter behind Mandana. Shafali top scored with 75 runs off 41 balls in the last match of the series and jumped 4 spots into the 9th place. Another key contributor in India's 3-2 series win was Arundhati Reddy, who snapped 6 wickets during the course of the series. Reddy scalped 2 wickets in the final T20 International and leaped 4 spots to the 39th place in the bowling rankings. Croatia's captain Luka Modric has completed his move to AC Milan on a 1-year deal with an option to extend until June 2027. Modric will, in fact, he is set to leave Real Madrid after 13 years. He will wear the number 14 shirt, and he has made 597 appearances for the Spanish club, winning 28 trophies, including 4 La Liga and 6 Champions League titles. He's 39 years old, he's a midfielder, and his arrival was confirmed by newly appointed Milan coach Massimiliano Allegri earlier this month. India's shuttlers PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen, they're going to be in action on Wednesday in the Japan Open 2025 badminton tournament. Sindhu, Lakshya and the men's doubles pair of Chirag Shetty and Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy, they were last seen in action at the Indonesian Open in early June. All 3 skipped the subsequent US Open and the Canada Open. So what's happened is that in the women's doubles category, Rutaparna Panda and Shwetaparna Panda are also going to represent the Indian contingent. Production has begun for a new TV adaptation of Harry Potter, as the first picture of the lead actor in costume was released. Producers released the first picture of the 11-year-old Dominic McLaughlin in a costume as Harry Potter on Monday and confirmed several new cast members. J.K. Rowling's series of novels has already been made into a film, but HBO is now producing a TV series, which is expected to take about 10 years to complete. The program will be filmed at Warner Brothers Studios, Leavesden in Hertfordshire, which is where the 8 Harry Potter movies were also shot. World Youth Skills Day, observed annually on the 15th of July, celebrates the strategic importance of equipping young people with skills for employment and entrepreneurship. The theme for 2025, Youth Empowerment through AI and Digital Skills, highlights how artificial intelligence is transforming the way we learn, work and grow. DD India's Kriti Vadhera reports.
Across India, young entrepreneurs are harnessing the power of digital technologies to drive real change on the ground. One such innovation is the AI Anganwadi project called Prarambshala, which is a breakthrough in early childhood education, integrating smart learning tools and AI-based monitoring. This initiative transforms traditional Anganwadis into digital-enabled spaces where children can learn through smart boards and engaging activity-based learning.
So while considering the Anganwadis, the importance of Anganwadis, that around 5-year kids of India are starting their learning journey from this particular Anganwadis. So considering that and considering the gaps that are there in the Anganwadi, what we have decided to digitalize that thing. So that even if Anganwadi worker is not present, even the Sahayika can come and at least facilitate the class for that particular day. Anganwadi workers just have to come and switch on the board, and everything is pre-decided in the board. Like on that particular day, what they have to teach. Like first there is a poem, then there is card-based activity where they have to Anganwadi worker will interact with kids, also presenting the visuals.
It aims to make foundational education more interactive and curiosity-driven, laying a solid groundwork for lifelong learning.
In India, more than 5 crore kids studying in 1.3 million Anganwadis, and the condition of these Anganwadis is not much satisfying. So we have observed this thing, how we can improve the learning level in these Anganwadis, how we can facilitate the Anganwadis worker, how they can more empowered, how they can teach kids through digital learning. And as we know, national education policy is also focusing on the visual learning part. But these Anganwadis does not have any kind of digital infrastructure. So this is the major cause we want to solve. For this, we have designed this Prarambshala, which is based on AI concept.
From children to teachers and administrators, AI Anganwadi is nurturing a new era of learning, and behind it all, a wave of young innovators is redefining what inclusive, tech-enabled education looks like in India. On National Youth Skill Day, the message is very clear. When empowered the right way, with right vision and right skill, the youth of the nation can truly redefine the future of learning. With camera person Ajit, I'm Kriti Vadhera, reporting from New Delhi for DD India.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app, available on Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.